Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Cleric spell guide for the Kunark era, specifically for the Teak TLP random loot server. Before we get started, I want to mention if you're interested in seeing my streams, check out my other channel that does all the streams and go watch us over there because we will be streaming on this server. It's one of the better servers that's come out to date. It's a clone of the Mischief and Thornblade server, which are highly popular. So I definitely recommend if you want to play in a random loot server, this is a time to do it. Never had more fun than on the random loot servers. Okay, with that being said, a couple things you have to know when you're playing a cleric in the Kunark era, especially since the Teak server is going to start in Kunark. You want to know a little bit about the spells. I'm going to go ahead and break it down for you real fast. This should be a short video because there aren't a whole lot of spells below level 51 like, say, the enchanter does. Okay, let's get started here. General rule with the cleric, buy all the heals because there's a lot of times where you're in situations where you do need the heals. Let's take, for example, the group heals. You definitely do need those kind of things because even though you're not going to be using it a lot, there are situations where there's going to be big AoE that hits everybody and the health's going to go down, and it's much more efficient to cast that group heal. You'll know because they'll let you know we're going to be in this kind of camp or this and that's going to happen. So be ready to do group heals, especially in some raids. There's no other way to do it. And if you don't pop that group heal, your casters are going to get fried. So you want to look for the heals. You want to get all the buffs. And now let's get into other things that are important or not so important. So start off, first of all, Dread of Night, not important at all. Just definitely don't need that. You're not going to be fearing anything at all. If you're going into a place with no enchanter, well, good luck. You better have a good puller and a lot of luck. Okay, so Remedy, definitely get it. This is another heal, just get it. Here's an interesting spell that a lot of people don't really know a lot of. This is called Death Pact, and the deal with Death Pact is over here. Let's talk a little bit about this. This requires a pearl, and what it does is it actually heals you when you get to the death zone. Like say you go below below 1 hit point, you go to 0. It will cast an automatic instant heal and get you back up. So this is quite useful to give you a second chance. Um, it only does a few hundred points, I think, so it's not that big a deal. I've not used this one. I've used a divine intervention before, and it's really, really nice because that does thousands of hit points. And in this era, that is like a complete heal in many situations. Really good to put on your crowd control if you need that. Good to put on the tank because if the tank is going out there, a tank or puller, and they get stunned or something and they just need that extra oomph, that's great. But later on, when you get up to the higher level expansions, let's say like Omens of War or whatever, it ain't going to matter too much. You're going to tear right through that and kill you instantly. So, but still good to get. Death Pact, I would put this on, let's say put it on casters because it's a small amount. If it's more, you guys let me know, but as I remember, it wasn't a whole lot. Okay. Sunskin is invisibility versus undead. I believe this is a group version, and I think this is kind of like an improved invisibility undead, so it lasts a long time. That's really good if you're moving through undead parts of the dungeon. You want to get everybody because it takes too long to cast invisibility on everybody and then yourself, and then invisibility wears off. You get the point. So get Sunskin if you can. This is very, very common. It's one of those trade-in spells that you have like this and Heroic Bond, etc. You guys know about this. There's a vendor in over there, and there's one in Front of Vi, and you get the spell from mobs in Old Sibyllus and those Kunark level 50 plus dungeons. They will drop these. You can turn these spells in and trade it for something else. For example, it seems like everybody has so many copies of Sunskin. You just get one of those and turn it in. Maybe you get Heroic Bond, which is really nice. Heroic Bond is a group version of a buff. Definitely get that. You're going to get your word. Word is a group group heal. Very, very important to have. Look at how much it heals. It does burn crazy mana, but like I said, if everybody gets hit with that nasty AoE and they're going down and you can only heal one at a time, that's not going to cut it. You're going to need it. So let's talk about next thing, upheaval. Not worth it. You shouldn't be doing this as a cleric. Shouldn't be popping upheaval. This is just for fun to show you can do some DPS. Not worth it. Divine Light, Get this. Any of the light spells are very, very good here. Get that. Here's another one. Get Annul Magic for sure. Even though the enchanter has a better one called Recant Magic, this is still going to give you something. So if you don't have an enchanter in your group and you need to take those buffs off, you get it for sure. A Yalp, I don't really think you're going to be using Yalp. It does this kind of stuff. It's a self only and increases your attack. I mean, you're not battle cleric, so don't get it. But other people said, well, you can get it to raise your abjuration. That is true, but you can also get a lower level Yalp that costs you nothing to do that. So yeah, they put this in when there were battle clerics out there, like melee clerics. Symbols, get your symbols because remember, this is pre-temperance. The era of temperance changed all of this, and you could cast one spell and you didn't need a whole bunch of these little spells. But now you're going to need your symbol and you're going to need all that kind of stuff. So just get it. Really, really simple. Reckoning is your nuke right here. Not really important. There is a good nuke that I'm going to tell you about that's coming up that you should buy and you should use if you can. But this thing is just like it's a whatever spell. The hammer. Sometimes a hammer can do a little DPS if you have nothing better to do and you got the thing, the camp and control, and you're just doing group stuff. Pop your hammer. It'll do a little extra DPS, and it's like a pet that you can send right at the target. It doesn't cost that much mana for what it does, but only do this when you're in control of the fight and in control of the camp, and everybody's sitting around and doing funny emotes, and they want to go ahead and beat up some monster. In a raid, if they need a little 1% more DPS, pop the hammer and do it. If everybody pops the hammer, you're going to do a little more DPS. It'll help. Now let's talk about a very crazy good skill, Exile Undead. Look at this. You get it before even the Necromancer. This thing just blows, it shreds undeads to pieces in this game. And I mean, really, it's good. It's so efficient. It's like it just hits like crazy. I mean, look at that right there. You can pop this thing all the time, and if you're gonna solo, you can root stuff and pop them with this and just blow them in half. So Exile and Dead, I really like this spell a lot. Get it because when you get in those situations, you can have fun being DPS. Fortitude, get it. Wake of Tranquility, I talked about this in my Enchanter spell guide. Definitely get the Wake because it's a line of sight, pacify, area of effect. And you want to be able to do this with Enchanter because there's situations like Old Sibyllis Juggernauts where there's some rooms where you need to pacify more than one. Now let's talk about a big level 56, Revisance, and you're going to get Resurrection at 96% res. And this is really important because your previous res is a 90% res. It may not seem like 6% is a lot, but at this high level, every percent counts. You don't want to be dying all the time unless you're like level 60.9999. You want to be able to get as much EXP back. So I think it's huge. Even though it costs you a ton of mana, definitely big. Okay, time to talk about another spell. It's called Mark of Karn. Now, at this level of the game, Mark of Karn is an important spell, and I'll talk about why. So, what this does is it gives you a glowing aura here, and you cast this on basically on the mob. And what this does is it kind of heals you back. It's one of those kind of things that does that. And that's what the thing does. So on some DPS, this can get them some heals. And it's kind of nice to put it on them if you can do that. So I would definitely get the mark and do that. Okay, Word of Restoration. In other words, it's another one of the group heals. Get it. Forget Trepidation. Now here's another question people will wonder is should you get Bulwark or Aegis? Look at the difference in AC and you're going to be like, why is this one more? Why is Aegis 100 more than Bulwark? Well, the answer is this. Bulwark's an hour and 21 minutes, okay? Aegis is 2 hours and 24 minutes. Okay, enough said. So Aegis, you're going to be casting Aegis that lasts 2 hours. That's a crazy long time or until you die. That's just fantastic. So be casting Aegis 3 AC at this point isn't a really big deal. So I would definitely get your Aegis if you can. Okay, and it comes from higher level mobs, Old Sibyllis, places like that. Chardock, you can get it. Okay, so go with that if you can. Next thing I want to talk about is this antidote. Antidote is really, really, really key here. This is a poison cure. Sometimes on raids you get some super duper nasty poison that's just really freakishly hard to cure, and it's just going to eat you alive. You need to get antidote. I forgot which one does this, and I think it's those rats in Plane of Hate. They can put poison on you, like poison like no other, and you got to get that off. Otherwise, you're just going to sit there and die, and their poison lasts a long time. Okay, this is Enforced Reverence. This is a stun, single target stun. It's not bad and all that, but most of the time you're going to be healing and doing stuff like that. So Natron's Mark, this is another buff here. It increases your hit points. It's a group level one. But I think the thing with this is you have to look at it. I think it does a lower level buff, like maybe it's in the 40s. So it's not, as I remember it, you can go ahead and cast it for a group level buff if you definitely need it. But a lot of times in a situation when you get a camp, you're pretty much going to be buffing the tank. I would say that's the most important thing. Once the camp is set, the tank's going to get all the buffs rather than other people. Like, you're pretty much not going to do anything for the druid, and you don't heal him. I mean, you don't buff him or anything like that. They can do their own buffs, and you save mana and do everything else because you want to save it for your heals overall. That's if there's a druid in your group. Okay, Celestial Elixir, good spell to use because this is a heal over time. These are really great because they're passive heals that you can put on like a puller or a tank, and they don't draw any aggro and they heal a little bit each time. So really good to put on there if your tank is out there beating on stuff and you don't want to draw more aggro, you just have this heal on them. So that's good too. Unspoken Word, this has a little blindness effect to it, but it's a point blank AE. I don't like using any point blank AE as a healer because that draws a lot of aggro. You're probably not going to get a chance. And look at this mana hog. Oh my God, that thing uses so much mana. Just for fun and play, I wouldn't do it. Let's talk about some other things now. Another word, it's a group heal. Okay, look at how much this does, 7,500. That's like a pretty much a group complete heal at that level. So pretty awesome. Here's another spell, Banishment of Shadows. This is a destroy. Let's talk about this because people think, oh man, I'm going to go ahead and destroy whatever mob, but guess what? It's not that simple. It only works up to level 51. So you got to ask yourself, is there a level 51 mob that I really, really need to kill really bad that I'm willing to blow 750 mana on to just kill it? Well, what people say is that um, sometimes you don't get a faction hit if there's something you got to vaporize, etc. But it's very situational. Next spell, let's talk about the final one is Divine Intervention. This is a very, very good spell. So Divine Intervention is basically known as Death Save, and you put this on your tank or your puller right before the pull. And if it gets real nasty, this thing can basically do a complete heal on them. Now, the thing is it requires 2 emeralds, so you're going to blow through a lot of these, but I've used this on live servers when I played, and I had plenty of money to do and blow, and I didn't really care. And it worked so many times. I don't know if it ever even failed once. I don't even think it fails. I think it runs 100% at a time. So definitely you're going to use this on your puller, like your monk or whatever. Definitely you're going to use it in your tank. If there's somebody else important, you could put it on them too, because what happens is they get hit and then they get healed automatically. So there you go, guys. There's my quick and dirty Cleric spell guide. Thank you for watching and see you on the Teak server.